Wind monsters haven't been known to have powerful support, but they have had many powerful monsters that have impacted Yu-Gi-Oh's formats, which of course we'll be going over today. And at number 10, we start this list with Mega Phantom Beast Dracossack. Dracossack was known as one of the best Xyz monsters in early 2013, and was even seen as the best card in the game at one point. This Wind Machine Xyz could detach one material to summon 2 Mega Phantom Beast tokens. While you controlled any tokens, Dracossack couldn't be destroyed by battle or card effects. What made it even more impressive was that you could tribute a Mega Phantom Beast monster to target one card in the field and destroy it in exchange for Dracossack not being able to attack that turn. The card saw play in almost every rank 7 strategy, the most common being Dragon Rulers, who had absolutely no issues placing level 7 bodies on board to use for this XC summon. The card's built-in protection made it hard to get off the field, as most strategies in early 2010s were destruction based. Add in the fact that this card produced tokens, one of the most useful resources in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and Dracossack became not only a great option for spot removal, but also combo extension, as there were no restrictions on how you could use these tokens. Dracossack could even tribute itself if there were no more tokens to utilize, as its effect requires you to tribute any Mega Phantom Beast monster, not just tokens. This made it great against floodgate negations like Skill Drain or even Fiendish Chain, as Dracossack could just tribute itself for cost, and then its effect would no longer be negated, allowing it to destroy either of these 2 cards. Of course, nothing beats Father Time, as power creep has caught up to this card. However, that didn't stop Dracossack from still being utilized in current Yu-Gi-Oh! The card saw play in some fun combos created by Kashtira, in which Dracossack tokens could be used for Link Spiders, who would then be used for G Golem Crystal Heart, who could then bring back your Link Spider to make a Heat Soul. It was also lurking in Master Duel, as it can use the tokens to help Link summon another familiar Mecha Phantom Beast monster, Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. And at number 9, we have Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. Barrier statues weren't a strong archetype when they were introduced in Cyberdark Impact. GX era Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't have the high amount of special summoning and extenders that today's game has. Over time, as the game went on, barriers of the weakest attribute would start seeing play, and Stormwinds would be on the forefront due to the Wind attribute being the least represented attribute in the game. It would finally see stardom around the 2020s when an archetype like Lyralist, Tri-Brigade, and Fluent Rees would use this card as an end-board floodgate to lock your opponent into only special summoning Wind monsters. There was also another surprising archetype that was able to use the Barrier Statue lock, and that was Kashtira. Kashtira would gain access to Stormwinds by XC summoning Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon, a rank 7 XC that lets you detach a material to special summon a level 4 or lower Wing Beast monster from deck, which Stormwind fits the bill, with this card having multiple ways to be tacked into multiple decks, including another card that's in this top 10 that we'll get to in a second. It was no surprise that it's currently banned. It's also the only banned Barrier statue. It's not like its leagues better than the rest of them, but it being a floodgate to the lowest represented attribute, the ability to control what can be special summoned or not, and it being a meta call will likely be the reason why this card won't ever come off the list, and show how underrated of a Wind monster the statue truly is. And at number 8, we have Elemental Hero Stratos. Today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Players just see a harmless warrior hero searcher with a random back row removal effect. Anybody who played during the GX era sees a menace who was the heart and soul of multiple oppressive decks. Coming to the TCG as a promo card in 2007, Stratos immediately saw play in Airblade Turbo, one of the most hated decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, which utilized Diamond Dude, Phoenix Blade, and Dimension Fusion to set up an OTK. This card would appear in many deck lists since, including Teledad, Gemini, and Hero Beatdown, and even more degenerate decks like Divine Wind FTK. It also benefits Stratos as being the searcher for the biggest archetype in the game, Hero, and can search any hero monster regardless of level, attribute, or type. Stratos has seemingly gotten stronger as well now that the hero archetype is homogenized with different subcategories of heroes, such as the Destiny heroes, Evil heroes, and Vision heroes, and now main deck masked heroes. These reasons alone are why the card was immediately limited to 1 after its debut in the TCG, then banned as more hero support surfaced in 2013. It would take 5 years and a faster game to allow it to be put back to 1 in 2018, semi-limited in 2019, then finally given its release paper in 2020, where the card is finally seen as no more as a searcher with a wonky back row removal effect. And breezing its way onto the number 7 of this list is Daigusto Emeral. Rank 4 and recycling resources are literally all that needs to be said about this card, which was a slight problem in the TCG. Rank 4 has the highest amount of Xyz in the game, and is always easy to make. Daigusto also joined this fray, being a generic rank 4. Its effects lets you detach a card to target and shuffle 3 monsters back into the deck and then draw 1 card, or target and special summon a non-effect monster from your grave. Both are perfect for looping back resources, and that's exactly what it got abused for in the TCG in every deck that could abuse rank 4s like Zombies, Light Sworns, Gem Knights, Stellar Knights, and the cream of the crop of the time, Zodiac, who all went through resources like no tomorrow. Daigusto also made it less punishing to burn through your resources and gave means to just use them again, which was powerful at the time with decks that still had plenty of soft once per turn cards. It even helped out with recycling powerful one-off cards. An example would be Elder Entity Norden, who saw play in almost every deck due to its powerful effect of special summoning a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard on its special summon. Played via instant fusion, Norden was always a guaranteed extra deck play when you needed a synchro or a rank 4. Add in Daigusto Emeral, who can help recycle Norden, and you have a non-stop loop of recycling Norden to use again and again for another free extra deck play. Emeral only got better with time, as when links came in, players didn't have to worry about leaving the Emerald field as a target for attacks or effects anymore. After using Emerald for your recycling, you could then simply use Emerald as a link material. This led Emerald to a couple of visits on the ban list. It was forbidden in 2017 and limited in August of 2019. And at number 6, we have Speedroid Terrotop. What was supposed to be used as an extender for the Speedroid archetype for their synchro plays is now known as possibly one of the best rank 3 engines of all time. Terrotop is a level 3 wind machine which can be special summoned if you control no monsters. When normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. Most of the time, players would use this to grab Talk and Tomborg, another level 3 Speedroid which can special summon itself if you have a wind monster you control. With no effort, you got 2 bodies on board for 1 card in your hand. And that didn't mean for just synchro plays, but XC's plays as well. This would be seen in the best example, Burning Abyss, who would use Terrotop to access a free Dante. The Speedroid engine allowed the decks to save its normal summon, extend its combos further, and play through hand traps. This even made it a better choice than Tour Guide in some scenarios because it didn't eat up your normal summon and was unlimited at the time when Tour Guide was at 1. It also saw play in Zodiac. As if full power Zodiac needed more help boosting consistency, Terrotop had the same impact it had for BA. Keeps your normal summon, extends your plays, and an easy access to rank 3s. This time the rank 3 of choice being MX Saber Invoker, who allowed you to detach material to special summon an Earth Warrior or Earth Beast Warrior monster from your hand or deck. This gave Zoo easy access to Rat Pier to begin their Zodiac combos. The Terrotop engine was also considered so good that even when it got hit to 1, people still played it because having 2 free monsters to make plays with was just too good to pass up. Now, Terrotop is at 3 in the TCG and still seeing play, whether it's to help decks get Moon of the Closed Forest for their Fiendsmith combos, or be an extender to help with the Goblin Biker combos. And Baronne De Fleur rides in at number 5. Generic is the name of the game in Yu-Gi-Oh! If it could be run in almost every deck, it will probably see play. Baronne was one of the faces of must-make endboard cards when it was unlimited. This level 10 Warrior Synchro could pop 1 card on the field once per turn. Had a quick effect Omni Negate, which could only be used once while it was on the field, and could target a level 9 or lower monster to return itself to the extra deck in order to special summon that target from the graveyard. There's no denying Baronne was going to see play. What was unexpected was how easily this card was going to be made in every single deck, regardless if you were a synchro-based deck or not. This card would be the Batman to Sword Soul's Batman and Robin when it was released. Sword Soul's Strategist Longyong was a 1-card Baronne, as although Baronne was a level 10 monster, its requirements was a simple tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Even when Sword Soul got power crept out of the format, Baronne would continue to see play. Adventure Pile had access to it via Shooting Riser Dragon or Auroradon packages. Even Tearlaments, Kashtira, and Eldritch found ways to incorporate Baronne into their endboards and strategies. And more decks like Snake Eyes continued to place this card on board. This card would finally see the ban list in 2024. While the effect may not be the most overpowered, its easy access caused the game to have homogenized boards and made a very toxic game state in Yu-Gi-Oh!, where almost every first turn board was challenging if not impossible to break. And at number 4, we have Droll Lockbird. From unwanted to being one of the best hand traps in the game, Droll Lockbird didn't really see play until a couple of years after its printing in 2010 in Starstrike Blast. It slowly started as a side deck option against stacks with heavy searching abilities and draw power like Dark World and Six Samurai. Then things started picking up with Dragon Ruler and Spellbooks, who had multiple ways of adding cards to their hands. Dragon Rulers had great draw power with cards like Super Rejuvenation and Sacred Sword of 7 stars. And Spellbooks had an even wider array of search abilities, with Spellbook of Secrets, Spellbook of Knowledge, Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, Spellbook Library of the Crescent, and the most powerful, Spellbook of Judgment. As time went on, this card saw constant side deck usage. Fast forward to today's meta, and Drone Lockbird has now gone from a mid card to one of the most loved hand traps in the game. Okay, only loved when you use it. Regardless, Droll is a main deck staple due to the many decks that have constant search ability and draw power throughout their turn. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has only gotten quicker and quicker as time moves along, with decks that can play through multiple hand traps like Ash, Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence, and many more to establish a proper board becoming more of the norm. However, Droll holds a more powerful aspect, preventing players from completely adding from their deck to their hand for the rest of the turn. This alone can completely end a turn for a plethora of decks that need to dig for pieces. Even if it doesn't stop your opponent from completely playing that turn, it at least forces your opponent to use their limited resources and force them to play with what they have or what they can get to, leaving a possibility of them only setting up a subpar end board, giving you a chance to break their field better. While this hand trap is seen as one of the most polarizing cards ever printed, it's one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most necessarily evil cards with the insane amount of searches and draw powers that are constantly being produced throughout the game. And at number 3, we have Majespecter Kirin. Pendulums were already seen as a headache in the TCG, and Kirin wasted no time getting on the nerves of the players. Pendulum summoning already made bringing this card to the field easy, even though it was a level 6 due to you only needing to have the proper pendulum scale to summon it. Not only was this card easy to summon, it was hard to get off the board too. Kirin couldn't be destroyed by card effects nor be targeted, which made most of the removal options at the time obsolete against it. Even if you did, this card would most likely be face up in the extra deck, making it easy for it to get back to the next turn via pendulum summon. Kirin also had a quick effect which made it hard to get rid of, which allowed you to return one pendulum monster in your monster zone and one monster your opponent controlled to the hand. This made Kirin a solid disruptor to your opponent's plays, and a card that can get rid of problematic threats on the board that couldn't respond to Kirin. The hilarious part about all this is that the Majespecter archetype wasn't the deck that showed Kirin's impact, but Pendulum Magicians who utilized Kirin's to its full potential. Unlike Majespecters, Pendulum Magicians actually had the pendulum scales to pendulum summon Kirin. It also helped recur your summon pendulum monster with its effect if needed, which was abused by Magician players to retrieve Skullcrobat Joker to their hand to not have it linger on the board. This was further backed up when Skullcrobat was limited in the TCG. If anything, you could just bounce Kirin if needed to remove something, and then pendulum summon it back to the field. Kirin was a great example of how frustrating the pendulum mechanic was to go against, being a near immovable disruptor that any pen deck could have by slapping 2 scales on the field was more than enough reason to ban Kirin in 2017. Currently, pendulums have been neutered, which gave Konami the go to give Kirin back to players once again in order to test the current state of pendulums. And at number 2, we have Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty. Remember the barrier statue of the Stormwinds? There was another reason why this card was troublesome, and it's all thanks to Simorgh. What was supposed to be a link for a terrible archetype of winged beast monsters ended up being yet another monster to establish a powerful end board. Simorgh was a Link 3 winged beast which couldn't be targeted by card effects, and neither could winged beast monster this card pointed to be targeted either. It also had built-in protection from battle by letting you destroy another Simorgh card instead. However, the effect that showcases Simorgh's strengths is that during the end phase, it allows you to special summon a winged beast monster with a level equal to or lower the amount of unused spell and trap card zones from your hand or deck. This includes your opponent's unused spell and trap card zones as well. This made Simorgh a powerful first turn link, as your opponent's zones are usually unused, which lets you special summon nearly any winged beast monster first turn. During the time Simorgh was around, players had 2 strong options. One was, as already established, Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. The other was Mist Valley Apex Avian, a level 7 winged beast Omni Negate. With Simorgh comboing with these cards, you could put your opponent in a bind, whether you choose to lock the board with Stormwinds, or set up one of many negates with Avian. Not to mention the fact that it couldn't be targeted because of Simorgh's effect. While Simorgh saw play in any deck that had anything to do with feathers, if you watch our previous video explaining banned monsters, you would have seen that this card and Tri-Brigade had amazing synergy, as Tri-Brigade main deck monsters could banish any amount of B-centric monsters from your graveyard to special summon a B-centric Link with a Link rating equal to the number of monsters banished, meaning they could easily cheat out Simorgh as a powerful option. Simorgh has been banned since 2022, but could potentially come back in the near future now that Stormwinds is banned as well, and the decks that played Simorgh heavily are basically power crept. And our final monster, flying in at number 1, is Apollusa, Bow of the Goddess. This Link 4 has had a common presence on nearly every Yu-Gi-Oh! End board for over 4 years since its release. It was a Link 4 that only required 2+ monsters that weren't tokens, and an attack that was equal to the number of Link materials times 800. What made Apollusa dangerous was the fact that this card negated the activation of your opponent's monster's effects once per chain by reducing its attack by 800. You can consider Apollusa the final boss of generic Quint endboard monsters. Being able to negate monsters once per chain meant that Apollusa could negate your opponent's cards multiple times in one turn based on how much attack power it had. This meant it was possible to negate 4 monsters on your opponent's turn, since its stats could max out at 3200 under its normal procedure. When combined with other strong endboard monsters like Borreload and Baronne De Fleur, it made it nigh impossible for your opponent to play the game, as they would possibly have to play through at least 5 counters before they could establish a board. It didn't help that almost every deck currently in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is heavily dependent on monsters and spells in today's game, which is heavy in extenders, special summoning effects, searching, and recovery. Apollusa basically guaranteed that you could shut down your opponent's monster strategies multiple times on the turn until your opponent could find an out to it, or swing over a reduced Apollusa's attack. Even though it wasn't the biggest powerhouse in the TCG, a generic Link 4 that you can make with leftover bodies, and takes away the ability for your opponent to use monster effects, was too oppressive for the format. There's no surprise that Apollusa was saved a spot on the ban list, and probably won't come back without an errata, or, by some miracle, a format where it could be played. However, what's not surprising that this card is number 1 on our list for being the most powerful wind monster of all time.